Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Please welcome to this session today. May I now request Sister Heba to give a brief introduction of AMP to our attendees.
Welcome, everyone. I'll be giving a brief introduction about AMP. AMP is Association of Muslim Professionals. It is a non-profit organization which was established in 2007 by a small team of 4 members. The foundation of AMP was laid with the mission to empower underprivileged and to form a robust society and work together for the progress and development of our nation, India. AMP was first registered in India as AMP India, and Alhamdulillah, it has grown and now registered in USA, UK, and Australia. Always, AMP's primary focus has been on education and professional empowerment. Apart from this, AMP also focuses on economic awareness, social responsibility, and recognition. AMP has completed its 13 years and has a vision to impact 10 million lives by 2030. Can we go with the next slide, Farhad? If you want to see the achievement of what AMP has done, we can comprehend by these numbers, which has procured in each chapter. Going with the first chapter, which is SDP. SDP is Skill Development Program. In SDP, our AMP volunteers go to school and take sessions about career development, career planning, examination preparation, soft skills training, and many more. We also train teachers and parents, which are going to impact the life of the students. Here, we have conducted 2,800 plus skill development lectures in 800 plus schools, which has benefited 281,000 students across the nation. We have also conducted 110 plus teacher training and parenting workshop. For the next chapter, we have Employment Assistance Cell. In Employment Assistance Cell, AMP organize job fair and job drive. Apart from this, we also conduct employability training. We have conducted 360 plus job fairs and job drive and 220 plus employability training. This has benefited 17,000 plus degree students and has led to 21,000 plus candidates employment. The third chapter is Scholarship and Self-Employment. With the help of Zakat funds, AMP has helped 800 plus students with higher education scholarship. We have also helped 860 plus orphan students with their education fee. AMP has also empowered 425 plus families to set up their own small business. The fourth chapter is AMP Resource Center. With the humongous professional volunteers and member base, AMP has leveraged this knowledge by setting up online career counseling center. In this center, there are 660 plus counselors whose contact details and availability is given on the website. 2,500 plus students have been counseled till date. We have 50 plus documents on career guidance, and we have distributed 150 plus career charts. The fifth chapter is Award and Recognition. We recognize and acknowledge our community people. For example, for every year from the past 5 years, AMP identifies 100 teachers across India who goes beyond and above to deliver education and empower students. Can we go to next slide, Farhad? There are many digital initiatives that AMP has recently launched. We have launched these initiatives post-pandemic. Post-pandemic, where people across different sectors were hit hard due to the deadly disease and lockdown, AMP came ahead and launched indiazakat.com, the indiamentors.com, and amppowerjobs.com. This was done to battle the tough situation and bring ease in people's life. The very first portal, which is indiazakat.com, which was launched last Ramzan, is a first zakat crowdfunding platform which brings zakat seekers and zakat givers together. A thorough background verification of zakat seekers are done by AMP, which is the most crucial phase in zakat and often neglected. The second platform which was launched is the indiamentors.com. indiamentors.com helps in development of professional community by bringing up in the concept of mentorship. A mentor who is an expert and well-versed in his field chooses 5 mentees and groom them for 3 months. The third launch was the amppowerjobs.com. This is a free portal where the professional list the job openings in their organization and the job seekers can directly benefit from it. Can we go to next slide? AMP has now 140 plus active chapters, which is spread across 16 countries, 26 states, with 6,000 plus active members. This has been achieved over a 13 years period of time. This was a very hard struggle, but AMP has also created its digital presence and has 125,000 plus professionals connected. Can we go to next slide, please? So this was all about AMP. I want you to invite everybody to AMP. If you are someone who is interested in serving the community and society, if you are someone who is ready to invest just a few hours at your convenience, if you are someone who wants to connect and network with the best brain in the world, if you are someone who is willing to serve others and make this dunya and akhirah better, then AMP is the right place for you. Please do reach out to us. AMP is a volunteer-based organization, and we are in always need of an extra hand. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair, Sister Hiba, for that very elaborate introduction to AMP. Let me briefly introduce our speaker. Normally, when you hear that somebody is working at Amazon, and then you hear that he did his master's from Purdue University, then you know that he needs no introduction and you are already ready to listen to him. But to go through the traditions, let us talk about Aatif Bhai. Aatif Belal was born and raised in the town of Motihari in Bihar, India. He graduated high school from Aligarh Muslim University, which is the 10+2 or intermediate. And then he did his BTech in Information Science and Engineering from BMS College of Engineering, Bangalore. After graduation, he worked with TCS as a system engineer for 4 years before leaving the shores to pursue his master's in the US. He did his MS from Purdue University in Indiana and went on to work with Google in his first job after graduation as a bilingual engineer working on internationalization of Google search for languages like Hindi and Urdu. In 2019, he moved to Amazon to work on launching Alexa in Hindi, and since then he has been working with Alexa. Aatif Bhai will today talk on conversational artificial intelligence and natural language processing. Aatif Bhai, over to you.
Thank you, Khalil Bhai. Thank you so much for such wonderful words. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Today, as Khalil Bhai said, I'll be talking about conversational AI and NLP, two topics that are very close to my heart. And I begin by thanking Allah, the Almighty, for giving me this opportunity to be able to share my experiences and insights with you all. I would also like to thank AMP for providing this platform where speakers like us can come and share our experiences with you all and hopefully motivate youngsters and professionals looking for guidance. I really think AMP is such a great platform, and May Allah make your initiatives a success. So with that, I think we can, if everyone is already joined, I can start presenting.
You can start, Aatif.
Okay, sure. And I know it's a Sunday in India, so I really appreciate everyone who's joining in from India. Probably not the best way to spend your Sunday, but I hope I can make it worthwhile. And I hope you can learn something at the end of my talk. So with that said, let me share my screen. So I have two monitors. I have some notes here, so I may be looking at some point on this monitor. So a couple of call outs before I walk you through the presentation. I'm sure you will have questions during the course of the presentation. So I want you to, I will appreciate if you could hold on to those questions, because we will be having a Q&A round at the end of the talk. So we can address those questions towards the end. But if you really feel like you have to ask that question in that moment, then feel free to unmute yourself and stop me, and I'm happy to answer whatever questions you may have. Okay, so with that said, let me walk through the agenda. So the things that we'll cover, I guess I'll skip my background because Khalil Bhai was really thorough explaining my background. So I don't really have anything to add there, except a few things which I may talk about. And then we'll talk about what conversational AI systems are, or what they mean, and then what normal architecture of these systems look like. Then we'll switch topics and we'll talk about natural language processing and what are its applications in the real world. Then we'll take a look towards the end on the job market, like what are the job openings available in this field and how you can become job ready. And I'll also talk about some of the tips and tricks that I've used in my experience to navigate these job openings. So with that said, let me go to the first slide. Speaker background, I know you all already know by now, but what the few things that I want to talk about more is the sort of work that I did in Google. I just wanted, I feel very proud of what I developed there. I'm not sure if you have come across this feature on Google search, but if there is an election result coming out today, and after the results have been announced, if you go to Google search and if you type election results, you would see sort of a semicircular pie chart with party names and their vote proportions. That is something that I worked on during my time at Google. And I've developed that in English, Hindi, and Urdu. So the Urdu bit, I did it for Pakistan country election results. So that's really something I wanted to sort of touch upon, because as an engineer, you want to build things that that can impact the world around you. And I think that really makes me feel accomplished. And then at Amazon, one of the things that I worked on was the launch of Alexa device in Hindi language. So I was primarily hired to launch Alexa in Hindi. Back then in 2019, Alexa was not launched in Hindi. It was only live in English. And then I was hired and I worked on setting up the language configurations and worked with engineering teams and different product teams to really make sure that we launch the Hindi part of Alexa successfully. So that's another accomplishment for me, which I really feel proud of. Okay, so with that said, let's talk about the meat of today's talk, conversational AI, what it is or what it means. So these are like intelligent systems that can listen to user needs. Like they can understand user requests and respond to user requests in a manner that sort of mimics human conversations. So the way to think about this is you have an Alexa device at your home, and you can talk to the Alexa device. You can say, "Hey Alexa, what is the weather today? Hey Alexa, set me an alarm at 5 a.m. in the morning. So, Alexa serves as a voice assistant, as a assistant, intelligent assistant that can actually understand your requests, and it can analyze those requests, and then it can respond in a very human-like manner, in a conversational manner, and that is where the name comes from, conversational AI. Think of it like executive assistant that you have in public offices who deal with administrative tasks, so that you can then focus your energy on important tasks. Similarly, these conversational AIs are supposed to help you in your daily lives. As our lives have become really busy, they really help us do some trivial tasks that don't require expertise, knowledge. So like setting up an alarm or knowing world news or things like that. That's about conversational AI. And conversational AI and chatbots, there's a little bit of a difference between these two. I know I have also used these terms interchangeably, but there is a bit of a difference which I wanted to highlight in today's talk. So chatbots are very much are systems that are bounded by rules, and they can only do tasks in specific categories. So like, for example, if you're talking to customer support team, when you call them, normally what happens is your call is connected to an IVR system where they say, press 1 to talk to this person, press 2 to know about your account balance or whatever. So those are IVR systems. They are made for specific tasks. But conversational AI is different because it can handle the variance in user requests. So the way humans interact, we are able to say one thing in many different ways. There are variations in the way I ask for something, and there could be a different way that another human being would ask for the same thing. But conversational AI are supposed to, or they are created in a manner that they can handle things differently for different users, and they can understand these different requests. They're able to make sense of it. So they are sort of more advanced, and chatbots are very much specific to one category. So for example, I think there is one example that I've mentioned there. User says, Alexa, how do I cook chicken kadhai? And Alexa says, here's a recipe from chicken kadhai from Sanjeev Kapoor Recipes. Sanjeev Kapoor Recipes is sort of a voice application which has a lot of recipes. So Alexa normally fetches the recipes from that skill. So that's just the way Alexa works. Hopefully that has given you a bit of context around conversational AI. Now let's move on to the next topic, which the architecture. Let's talk about the architecture. Khalil bhai, do you have anything to say? Okay, cool. Okay, so yeah, let's talk about the architecture. So these architecture, I think this is a very simplified version of what these conversational AI systems look like in real world. So at Amazon, for example, for Alexa, the system is really complex. And here I've tried to simplify it so that the audience can easily grasp the concepts. So the way these systems work is, so there is a user puts in a request to Alexa. So Alexa is a device. It's a physical device. It has microphones. It is able to hear your speech. It then records your speech and then sends your speech to cloud. So yeah, it sends your speech to cloud. Cloud is where all these different services are present. So instead of physical system, which is very much fault, fault intolerant, physical systems, if they fail, that's it. You cannot access things. But cloud is backed by multiple physical systems that are physically, geographically separated in different countries. And so even if one system fails, you have another system that can handle that request. So cloud is really good for real-time services and to make sure that your system or your application is fault tolerant. So as I was saying, the speech, whatever you said, is sent to cloud. And from cloud, there is a system called ASR, which is automatic speech recognition. So I have it in my next slide. So automatic speech recognition, these are machine learning models which have been trained to convert your speech into text. So they convert speech into textual form because computers cannot process speech data. They have to be converted into text so that NLP techniques, natural language processing techniques, can be applied to that text, and then we can derive some sort of insight from that data. So the first step is to convert speech into text, which is done by automatic speech recognition. And once that is done, so now let's say you said, what is the weather today? And it is sent to cloud. Cloud then sends it. Within cloud, you have ASR systems. So it is sent to ASR. ASR converts into a text form, which is what is the weather today. Now normally, humans, how we interact is when you say something to me, I try and I know that you are referring to some intent. Like if you ask me what is the weather today, I know that you want to know about weather. So you actually want info about the weather. So I would say something like, today it's sunny out there, it's 20 degrees Celsius or whatever. So, you have to really understand what the user's intent is in order to be able to respond. And the same goes for computers. We get the textual form, and then that textual form is then sent to a system called natural language understanding. So now we have the text form, but we want to understand what this text means, what these different parts of the text is all about. So for what is the weather today, the natural language understanding system, okay, so I have a slide for a natural language understanding system as well. Here it is, okay. So these are, again, machine learning models which understand your intent, what you need, and the elements in your request. So, for example, if you say, "Tell me the recipe of chicken kadai," so the intent there is to know the recipe, and chicken kadai would be the element. Like what exact entity are you talking about? And I'm talking about chicken kadai and not pizza or some other food item. So that is the task for natural language understanding. They have to classify a request into a certain intent and then pick different elements from that text in order to be able to respond. So going back to that flow chart, yeah, so it goes through natural language understanding. So my initial request was, what is the weather today? Now the natural language understanding knows that I'm talking about weather because my request has weather keyword in it, and it has already been trained on a lot of data like what is the weather today, how's the weather, is it going to rain today, tell me about the weather. So all these different data sets have been used to train that model. So that model now have understood the patterns, and it knows that you're talking about weather intent. And then it picks today, the element today from your request, and it assigns it a date. And then with all this information, it then, like these all things are passed as parameters to the code handler. So the code handler now, it's sort of a backend code that can actually fetch the weather. So the date is today, what intent is weather, and when it comes to knowing the location, because I haven't specified the location in my request, it then gets the location from the device location. So wherever Alexa device is, we record that location. So it gets the city name from that Alexa device, and then it is able to then look up somewhere in some online API or database like what exactly is the weather today, and then it fetches that response, and then it transmits that response back to the user using something called text-to-speech model. So text-to-speech TTS, it is nothing but, again, a machine learning model that can take text and convert it into speech. So it is doing something which is just opposite of ASR. ASR is taking your speech data and converting it to text, and TTS is doing the opposite, taking text and converting it into speech. And that is why, and that is how the response is then sent back to the user. And if you have a screen device, instead of the text-to-speech response, you would just see the display on your screen device. So there are multiple devices, and the architecture may vary a little based on the device that you're using. So this is about the architecture. This was a very simplified version, just to be clear about this. There could be a lot of there are a lot of things actually going inside of ASR and NLU, and things are not black and white. There's a lot of computations and a lot of interpretations being generated, and you have to pick the one with the highest confidence. So there's a lot of machine learning related technique going on. There's a lot of code handling that's going on, which I haven't really tried to put into my slide because they would confuse the audience. But yeah, I hope this gives you an overview of what these systems look like. We already talked about these slides. Yeah, this is again a similar diagram, just reinforcing the architecture that we just learned. So for example, when user says, when is Eid, the ASR sort of understands these different candidates. It generates these different candidates. Like it can generate one candidate as when is Eid, and it can also generate one candidate which is when is Ed, right? You know, Ed is a name. And so it then sort of also assigns confidence intervals. So like maybe when is Eid, it has high confidence, and when is Ed has medium confidence, in which case when is Eid would be picked up because it has a higher confidence. Or sometimes ASR can get it wrong. You know, if you're not speaking clearly, ASR may get it wrong. Because at the end of the day, it is a machine learning model and they are not 100% accurate all the time. So it can also give you wrong recognitions. Anyway, so once it goes to ASR and ASR understands that you're talking about when is Eid, it then passes on that text to NLU. Again, similar thing which we just talked about during the architecture. And NLU then tries to identify the intent. What do you want to know? You want to know about the date. Okay, so date of event could be one intent, or when is certain event could be an intent. And then what is the entity or the element here? Eid, which is a festival. So this is something called named entity recognition. These are models that can recognize names or these events or things like that. So if you talk about Donald Trump, that named entity recognition would know that you're talking about the ex-US president. Similarly, if you say Eid, it knows that you're talking about the Muslim festival. So NLU then identifies these aspects, and then it passes on these information to the backend code that would then fetch, that would go to some database or a knowledge graph, and then it would pick the entry for Eid, and then it would get the date of Eid, and it would respond back to the user with something like, this year Eid is going to happen on certain date, if it has not already happened. Or if that date is already in the past, then Alexa may respond with something like, this year Eid happened on this and this date. So those systems are smart enough to capture whether a date is in the future or in the past, and then it uses corresponding verb to denote present and past. So with that said, I think that sort of covers conversational AI. Let's move on to NLP. So NLP is natural language processing. What NLP is, it is actually sort of techniques that you can use to analyze large amount of textual or language data. The language data could be speech or it could be text. But the basic idea is to have this tool or tool of techniques that you can use or the computers can use to understand language, to process them, and to be able to make sense of them. And the image on your right-hand side, that is about where does NLP fit in the overall picture, right? So if you're talking about the space of AI and machine learning, AI is, I think, the superset. Machine learning comes under AI, and then NLP sort of sits at the intersection between computer science and linguistics. So because NLP uses computational techniques to be able to process these texts, you need computer science theory and tools and techniques to be able to do that NLP. And then, of course, you need to have linguistics knowledge a little bit to be able to make sense of these linguistic components. Like, for example, there are certain processes or certain steps like stemming or lemmatization in NLP area, which uses part of speech tagging and things like that. So you need to have some linguistic knowledge or background in order to be able to make sense or to be able to interpret the results better. Moving on. So I just wanted to highlight some of the common NLP terms. One of the things is token. So tokens are words or phrases extracted from documents or text. So they are the smallest unit of your document. So for example, if there is a book that you're trying to summarize, let's say you are trying to summarize an entire book, it's harder to be able to make sense of the book as a whole. You'll have to break the book into sentences, into words, in order to be able to then make sense of the entire book. Or even let's make it a little simpler. If I tell you some sentence, then normally the way we understand it is we understand the meanings of each words, and then we sort of combine all these meanings, and we are able to then make sense of that whole sentence. So we need to be able to break the sentences into smaller units, which is token. And that's where tokens come into picture in NLP. Tokenization, it's again the same process through which you obtain these tokens. So you split the documents using spaces and punctuation marks, and you're able to then get the words as tokens. Stop word, this is very popular in NLP. These are normally words that do not add a whole bunch of meaning to the meaning of the sentence. So they don't really add much value to the meaning of the sentence. So for example, you can see the examples here. So even if you remove something like a, the article a or the, they don't really add meaning to the meaning of the sentence. So those are called stop words. And normally when you do processing of text, you want to minimize the noise in the data set. And so you are supposed to remove these stop words because they're not going to be helping you in analyzing the data set. You want to minimize things that are not going to help you, or things that you think your computer may learn from and get confused by it, because these they are not really that important, the meaning of the sentence. For example, if I'm talking about review of a movie, and if I say the movie is really good, you don't need is there. A movie good would sort of indicate that I'm saying something positive about the movie. So those are some of the stop words, and there are other stop words like they, we. There are many. So depending on your use case, sometimes you remove all the stop words, sometimes you remove a certain subset of the stop words. And this is just so your machine learning model can actually learn from the things that matter. And then the last one is stemming or lemmatization. This is to reduce words to its base form. So a good example here is playing, plays, played. They are all originating from the word play. So normally in natural language processing, what you do is you convert all these different forms of play, like playing, plays, played, to play using stemming or lemmatization technique. And this is done because at the end of the day, you don't want computer to think that playing, plays, played, these are all different separate words. You want computer to know that these are all coming from play. Like there's no difference between playing, plays, played. Like if I say, who is playing today, the match, for example, and then some user may use an incorrect grammatical structure and may say, who played today, you know? So the computer should be able to say that these are both same, these requests have same intent, and play and playing are not two separate things, which is why we have to do this pre-processing and remove or reduce these words to the common base form so that we can process it better. So that was some of the NLP terms. Now, applications of NLP. So, of course, conversational AI. I mean, this is what we are talking about today. So NLP really acts as the foundation. Without NLP, conversational AI wouldn't have happened. So it really acts as the foundation for these intelligent assistants. Spam classifier. So Google uses one, Gmail has a spam classifier, which is essentially a machine learning model that can predict whether a particular email is a spam or not. And then therefore, based on the prediction, the service can route spam emails to spam folder instead of, you know, them landing into your inbox, which you don't want. So this is done by using NLP at the core of it. Sentiment analysis, again, a very popular application of NLP, where you try to gauge the sentiment of some text. And this is very common in finance world, where you know, the sentiments of the market sort of drives the price of the stock. So financial firms, they develop these sentiment analysis classifier, which can go through the Twitter tweets, for example, on a particular stock, like about Apple, for example. Many people are, let's say some big shot left Apple today, and then people are talking bad things about Apple, that Apple, new product of Apple is really bad, or they don't have a future, things like that. So these analysis, these sentiment classifiers can actually crawl the internet, and they can gauge the sentiment, so they can say whether Apple has an overall positive sentiment in the market today or has a negative sentiment. And then based on that, you can predict whether the price of Apple stock is going to go up or down. So this is again a very popular use case. And last but not the least, and there are many which I haven't listed here, but I guess for the purpose of this talk, I think these make sense. And the last one is machine translation, of course. And we all have seen, or we all must have used Google Translate, for example. Amazon also has one, AWS Translate. So these are machine learning models which can translate text in one language to another. So for example, if I said something in English, you can use machine translation to translate that English text into Hindi or Urdu or whichever language you want. So this is again very popular, especially nowadays. And I have a little snippet here which says NLP is hard, and you all can see why it is hard. So the first, so like for example, the second one, I'm a metal fan. You know, as a human, we can think, we can see this sentence and we know that I'm talking about music, you know, metal music, that I'm a fan of metal music. But it is very hard for computers to really understand that sentiment, because metal, you know, it's metallic, and fan is the electronic fan. So computers, it would be really hard for computers to really understand what this is. And so it's really hard for us to make computers understand what this really means. So this is why NLP is really hard. The fisherman went to the bank. Which bank? Like, is it the financial bank, or is it the river bank? You know, as humans, we know when the sentence is saying fisherman, we know it may, most likely it will be about river bank. But computers, it's hard for them to really understand the context and these little nuances. So definitely NLP is hard, which is why we need a lot of people to sort of come and help the community be able to solve all these difficult problems. Okay. Now, the interesting part, job market. So I think like right now, I really see this market is pretty hot with a lot of startups entering the scene. I see a lot of recruiters reaching out to me on LinkedIn with new roles. So I really see that there's a lot of demand going on right now, and it is only going to go up because of the advancements in machine learning techniques like deep neural networks and things like that. I think this will only grow. So some of the companies, let's talk about some of the companies that hire in this space. From tech, Amazon, because I work here, I know that Amazon has a lot of different roles in this space. Google also has its own Google Assistant, and then Google has its search team, which also relies heavily on NLP. Apple has Siri, so Apple also has a couple of openings on their career web page. Facebook, it also needs, I think Facebook has some roles around chatbot and conversational AIs. And then Microsoft has Cortana, the application. So Microsoft also has a team dedicated to doing all this. In terms of consulting, I've also seen a lot of demand in consulting firms. So Deloitte hires a lot of conversational AI professionals, KPMG, PwC. So they all, normally their work arrangement is such that they have projects with their clients. So Deloitte might be having one of its clients as Facebook, and Deloitte might be handling their conversational AI project. So if you get hired by Deloitte, you might be able to, work in those projects and work at Facebook, for example. Then we have all these roles. I tried to list some of the roles that I've come across on LinkedIn and on on other platforms. Some of them are from Amazon. I think I've already experienced 2 of these roles. So I was first hired as a knowledge engineer. For a knowledge engineer, the skill set was to know ETL, and so ETL development, Python, and then NLP. And there's another role called language data researcher, which is my current role. So I'm working as a language data researcher there. It's more of a product analytics role where you analyze language data and then you identify opportunities to make improvements to the interactions that people are having with Alexa. So I go through, for example, one of the features that I'm working on right now is how can I predict what the latent goals of a user are, or what the implied goal of a user is. So for example, if I'm talking to Alexa and if I say, hey, Alexa, I'm hungry today. And, so if I just say that, what is something that Alexa can say that can continue our conversation? So one of the things that we are trying to develop an algorithm that can predict those goals, users' goals. So in that scenario of Alexa, I'm hungry, Alexa might say, would you like me to look up some restaurants around you? Or would you like me to tell you a few recipes? So we really want to engage our users, and so we are looking for those opportunities. So that's what I do as a language data researcher. I analyze language data using NLP techniques and try and find those opportunities for improvements. Then there is language engineer. This is more of a core linguistic role. I believe I'm not 100% sure on this, but you'll be developing lexical grammars, and of course you'll be using some of the Python coding skills to be able to write some code, but it's more oriented towards linguistic and making sure that the language processing components are built perfectly to be able for systems to process the language data. Then I've sort of combined other roles like computational linguist. I think this is one at Apple. Apple mostly tries to hire for computational linguist. There's conversational AI engineer. I think I've been coming across this role quite often now. So there's a lot of demand for conversational AI engineers. They are mainly people who have Python coding skills and who may have developed a chatbot in the past. So you need to have experience with that, or at least you might have done some project in that space, and that will make you ready for that sort of a job. Nlp engineer, again, this is someone who knows NLP and machine learning and can process language data using NLP and machine learning. AI consultant, this is a role pretty common in consulting firms. So there is one AI consultant role, or there could be conversational consultant. That's that. And then data scientist NLP. So there are data scientist roles as well, which are generic data scientist roles, but with NLP focus. So the job title would say something like data scientist with NLP or NLP data scientist. So hopefully that sort of gives you a good overview of the job market today and the companies and the roles that are prevalent in this space. So how to get job ready? So I guess I guess for any field, the way to become job ready in that space is to first obtain theoretical knowledge. You have to have that foundational knowledge on the top of which you can build upon certain applications, or you can do certain projects. But you really need that foundation. One of the other things that I've noticed in this space is you need to have good skills around regex, regular expressions. So you need to be able to handle text data. You need to be able to clean text data. So you should have good regular expression skills so you can clean data using these regex techniques. It's really important in this space. Now, in terms of theoretical knowledge, I think there are a couple of ways you can go about it. So university degree, and I would specifically talk about master's degree, because during bachelor's, you sort of have to take up certain courses. There isn't much flexibility there. But for master's, you can actually design your master's degree around NLP. You can take courses in NLP. You can take courses in statistics, machine learning, linguistics, maybe. And then that would give you a good overview of NLP, and that will set you up for job market. There are degrees in computational linguistics. So if you have a linguistic background, if you're coming from a linguistic background, and if you are, if you want to learn computer science background a little, you can go for computational linguistics. That will help you learn computer science or computational techniques to be able to do these language processing tasks. So this is the university degree path. You have to spend a couple of years there in order to be able to successfully complete a degree and be ready for the job. If you want to take a shorter route, which I don't suggest, but I totally understand that with such less time at our hand, we don't really have an option. And so we we can do it via online as well, wherein you have these courses on Coursera, A Cloud Guru, Udemy, and YouTube. I think YouTube also has a lot of resources out there. So for example, the first course here on Coursera, Dialogue Flow, that is a course where you will be building a conversational experience using Dialogflow, one of the tools by Google. So that will give you a good overview, basic overview of how these things work. And you'll be developing a conversational chatbot sort of. So that will give you practical hands-on as well. I believe it is free, but I'm not sure. So don't quote me on that. A Cloud Guru also has Alexa Skill Specialty Certification. So, you can actually do this if you're really interested in learning more about Alexa. So this is sort of a certification preparation course, but you will be developing a voice application on top of Alexa. So it will give you, again, a good overview of Alexa, and you'll end up developing something that you can show to recruiters or hiring managers. Udemy has a lot of courses on NLP, so I've linked them here. And then this is a Medium article that talks about 10 NLP courses, so you can go through that. I guess, there are so many resources out there. It really confuses me which one to pick. So I guess the key is to really focus on one of them, pick the one which has good reviews, try and see some of the YouTube videos where people are explaining about those courses, and then go with it, like spend considerable amount of time on that course, and don't worry about what other people are saying, because everyone has their own view. But you just pick one and then you go ahead with it, and easily spend 3 to 4 months doing that course. And then once you are done with the course, you will also have done some projects as part of that course. So that will really be valuable to you, and you can put that in your resume, and then your resume will be attractive to recruiters who are hiring for these roles. YouTube also has a lot of resources. AI Engineering is one of the YouTube channels, and they have a series on NLP, so you can check that out. Stanford has NLP course on YouTube. You can check that as well. Amazon also has accelerated NLP course on YouTube. So like as I mentioned, there is a lot of resource out there. You just need to pick one and go with it. And so lastly, an important thing is so we talked about the job market, we talked about how to get ready, but then how do we identify those opportunities? How do we make sure that we are noticed by the recruiters or hiring managers? And of course, the short way is to make sure your resume is good, right? Your resume has everything that the recruiters are looking for or hiring managers are looking for. And a few tips there is to make sure that your resume has your responsibilities listed in bullet points. And you should not just list your responsibilities. I think the idea there is to list your accomplishment. So don't just say something like worked on creating a model to do this. That won't look very attractive. Always start with action words, like created a machine learning, built a machine learning model with an accuracy of 70%, which was trained on 10,000, or like maybe 1 GB data, So put all that information in there that will show the recruiters and the hiring managers that you have carried out such a task, that you have handled such a huge amount of data, and you were able to navigate the ambiguities, and you were able to complete the project and deliver the model with an accuracy of this much percentage. So I think it's really important to highlight those points instead of just mentioning something like participated in meetings. I mean, those are not really important. You you can discard those points. Instead, you can maybe say something like collaborated with different teams and scheduled one-on-one meetings with them or weekly update meetings with them. That would look more attractive. So that's about resume. I think the other thing that I want to focus more on is LinkedIn. So LinkedIn today is the key, as I've mentioned in my first point. I think there's no way around it. You have to be on LinkedIn. I don't know if you all have already if you all are already on LinkedIn. If you're not, please go ahead and sign up today itself, and make sure you put a nice profile picture and you fill in all your details about work and everything. But it is really important. Just so you know, I got my first job at Google and also my job at Amazon, both via LinkedIn. So you can just see how important it is in today's job market, how relevant it is in today's job market. And every now and then I receive messages from recruiters. I take a bunch of interviews on LinkedIn, via LinkedIn. So LinkedIn definitely takes priority there. So what is the link? What is LinkedIn? I think it lets you connect with professionals in the industry. So if you really are interested in making a career in conversational AI, you can go to LinkedIn. You can type conversational AI in the search bar, and then from the results, you can actually filter the results to people, and then you can go to those people profiles, and then you can see whether it makes sense for you to connect with them. And if, for example, you come across a profile who is the director of some technology team at Amazon, of course, he may not, accept your connection request, in which case you can just follow him. That will also keep you updated about his posts. If he posts something around, we are hiring for a data scientist in our team, you'd be able to know that because you're following him, and so his posts will show up in your feed. So that's one way to stay updated on LinkedIn. And the other thing is, you can use that platform to showcase your accomplishments. So if you have done some certification, then create a post, show it to the world that, hey, today I cleared this certification, and my suggestion to you all is, stay calm, work hard, and things like that. Or, you can, when you do projects, side projects, for example, you build a voice chatbot, then put that on the platform, say, hey all, I developed this chatbot using this technology. What is your take on this? Please find my code on the GitHub link and provide that link. So make sure that you're posting about these things or about your learnings, and this way you will be noticed by a lot of recruiters and professionals in your network, and also outside of your network. For example, if I'm in your network, and if I see your post and if I like it, then all the people in my network would be able to see that Aatif Belal has liked this post, and they'll be able to see that you are accomplishing these and these things. And so some of the recruiters in my network may reach out to you with a job opportunity. So it's really becoming the main hiring point of contact, I guess. And then you can also use, so LinkedIn has a jobs tab. You don't really have to go to the jobs tab. You can actually put the search term. So for example, if you're looking for NLP related jobs, type NLP jobs and then hit enter, and then you can see all these jobs in the result. And you can just go through these job descriptions, and you can see what the requirements are, what sort of skills they're looking for. So it will help you understand what the job market needs are, and then you can then prepare accordingly. The other thing that I do normally is, if I'm interested in a certain role, I will put that title in the search bar, and I will hit enter, and the results that come up, what I do is I only look at the posts. So there is people, job, posts. These are different filters. You can only look at the posts, and you'll be able to see people who have shared those jobs. So like someone may like that person may be the hiring manager, and he would be like, I'm hiring for this role in my team. Please message me if you're interested. So now I have a point of contact. So what I do then is I send him a connect request. And that's how I actually landed these jobs. So please, explore LinkedIn, use it to the best of your advantage, and like take full advantage of it. And hopefully, it will pay off sooner or later. So my suggestion is like, make sure you are on LinkedIn in today's times. I think that was the last slide in my presentation. So yeah, that is all I wanted to talk about. Hopefully, it must have added some value to your lives. Yeah, now I open the floor to people for questions.
Jazakallah khair, Bilal Saab. That was a very informative speech. Normally, when I go for a talk, I list out a set of questions that I want to be answered. And how comprehensive the talk is based on how many of those questions have been answered by the speaker. Today, you answered those and a few more. So hopefully our audience has some questions left out to ask you. Those who have questions, please type in the Q&A chat bot and we will ask them. But it was really nice to listen to the speech. Basically, Mr. Bilal introduced Conversational AI, talked about the architecture of AI. We learned about automatic speech recognition, natural language understanding, and the interaction flow, how the flow happens. That gives us a very nice overview of what really conversational AI is. The fact that he works with Alexa makes it a lot more appealing for us. And then he introduced natural language processing as an intersection of computer science and linguistics, which essentially tells you that you don't have to be a mathematician to be working in NLP. You could be doing BA Arabic and still be a part. So hope is there for everybody. I wish there are students who are from BA Arabic, BA whatever, who are attending, because this is something that's very important and required for us. And we learned some of the NLP terms, which will make us sound very educated when we throw them around. So you can talk about lemmatization and stemming, and people will be in awe. But usually those are people in your family, not the people who give you the jobs. So please, Bilal Bhai is following slides as well. We talked about where NLP is used, the applications of NLP, and the sentiment analysis of something which flashed a light bulb on my head about the, which you mentioned right at the beginning, and that's a big manipulation. We can talk about the ethics of that another time. And what was important, at least to me, was the listing of the job market, where you can look for how to prepare for it. Essentially, absolutely essential. And he covered the spectrum of it. How to build a strong foundation with your theoretical courses and where you can access those courses. Because most of the time, students think in terms of, when they think of anything related to computer science or IT, they think of coding and forget everything else. And this is a good reminder that you gave us. And talking about LinkedIn was very important. And as you said, everybody who wants a job or who wants to be a professional should be on LinkedIn. So that was good. We have a few questions. I have my own questions and I have from the panel. Let me just start with one of those questions from our panelists, which is a question actually asked very often by students, right? Everybody dreams about getting a job in Google, Amazon, etc. You got in both. And it's usually the top 1%, not even the top 1%. If you take globally, it's probably 0.001% or something. So the question is, what's the secret? How do we prepare? How do we strategize and get into it?
So yeah, okay. I think I was just lucky. Alhamdulillah, I was just lucky to be able to land my first job at Google, and then I guess owing to the fact that I know Hindi and Urdu, and there was a good match with that Google search team where they were looking for someone with computer science skill and also had language skill. So it worked in my favor. So Allah really helped me there, created an opportunity, customized it for me, before that, I was getting rejected left and right. Before that happened, before the Google interview happened, I interviewed at Amazon for one of the roles, and I got rejected by Amazon at that time. And then there were other interviews. I remember there was one interview at Capital One where I got rejected. So like a series of rejections, and then this happened. So I consider myself lucky there. And then once I worked at Google, then I was really confident about my work experience there and the knowledge about that particular field. So when I was interviewing with Amazon the next time, I was really confident because I was already knowing those things beforehand. And again, knowing Hindi gave me the edge over other candidates, I'm sure. So that really helped me. But I don't really consider myself among those top 0.001% which you were talking about. I think I'm pretty average, but it just somehow things have happened for me. Luckily, alhamdulillah, like I don't take credit for those. And I think it's not software development engineering role, right? That is more competitive. If you talk about those roles, I think those roles, getting into those roles is very competitive. But otherwise, I think it's more about domain knowledge and about your particular individual skills that really help you land those roles. But yeah, I'm lucky that I was able to get these roles. Yeah.
Okay, what I can see from your answer is essentially saying that luck is preparation meets opportunity, right? You were prepared beforehand, and Allah sent you those opportunities. And when those two met, you were lucky to get the job. Yeah, that's what we always keep saying. You know, and dawa.
Exactly.
So that's a thing for the everybody here to talk about. Okay, here's a question.
And Khalil Bhai, just wanted to add one thing. I think like when you are really applying for a job, you have to make sure that like when I reached out to people on LinkedIn, I was really very thorough in my message and very concise. I wasn't really beating around the bush in those messages. I was really talking about what they're looking for and how I can contribute or how I can add value to their team. So you really have to customize these messages, and you have to grab the attention of these hiring managers to be able to land those conversations, and then the interview would happen. So I guess preparation, of course, preparation at any given day, preparation is the key, and knowledge in that domain is also the key. And then of course, if Allah wills, anything can happen. So yeah.
Bilal bhai, that is very encouraging for our youngsters. Here's a rather long question, but rather it's a statement followed by question. You have answered some part of it, so perhaps you can add to it. This is from Mr. Srinivas Raman. He says, "Hi, Mr. Bilal. Thank you very much for the amazing session. I am very much interested in machine learning, NLP, and looking to pursue a master's degree in computer science in USA. Do companies like Amazon, Google, etc., generally hire freshers? I think emphasis is on the word freshers for ML engineers, NLP engineer roles in USA. Will internships and projects in NLP ML domain with the relevant coursework during masters?" So he's talking of internships, projects, and coursework together be enough to apply for the same? Thank you.
Yeah. Hi. So yeah, I think here, it all depends on what courses you are taking during your master's degree, what courses and what projects you are doing for those 2 years. And as, for example, if you're doing a thesis-based master's, then you would be doing a research. So what is that research all about? I think if you're doing all this in relevant area, like related to machine learning and computer science and whichever field you want to be in, I think top companies like Google and Amazon, they are open for you. Like they don't make a distinction between experienced professionals and freshers. So there are roles, right? Like there could be a role which requires 2 years of experience. There could be a role which is brand new, which is for a fresher, new grad roles. So there are roles like that at Amazon and at Google. So if you are doing a master's here, you would be applying to those new grad roles instead of the experienced hire roles. So you would be getting noticed if you have done relevant projects. So definitely internships, classwork projects, research-based projects. I think those are really the key to landing a good job. So yeah, if you don't have experience, then make sure that you spend a lot of time doing these personal projects and understand, like taking some online courses, doing online projects, and sharing your code on the GitHub link and things like that. So yeah, for sure, it's open to freshers.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bilal. Here's the next question by Mr. Hussain Sheikh. He says, thanks, Aatif, for the talk and your time. I'm curious and was wondering whether different companies working on NLP share their work and collaborate among themselves. If yes, then where and how?
Good question. So I guess he's asking whether, sorry.
Whether they are using any online resources like GitHub to share their work, or
So is the question
open, or they have I mean, I'm guessing, or they have common platforms that they create where you can go and contribute and learn, and different companies working on that? Is there a consortium?
not that I know of. So these companies like Amazon has a very confidential code base, right? It won't release the code to Google people. They're competitive, like they're competitions, right? At the end of the day. So they're really confidential about their work. We are not even supposed to. So in Google, I remember when I'm working on a project, I'm not supposed to talk about that project to other team members. So there were like such confidentiality involved that you cannot even talk to other teams within Google. Within Google also, you're not free to talk about certain projects. So I'm not really sure about this question, but like as far as I know, they don't really share things in general. But there could be specific projects where they are sharing something, but I'm not aware of those.
Yeah, normally this happens when you're working in the really emerging / cutting edge areas, because nobody has
Right,
a foothold yet. They are
right.
all for a
Learning
similar.
from each other. Yeah.
I think once they settle down, they try to, get from others. They try to collaborate. Everybody
Right.
wants to brother.
Right.
Right? Yeah. So here's another. I think again you have partially answered this. Thanks for the comprehensive session. Provided a lot of clarity on the topics. What are some examples of NLP in use today? You spoke about Alexa and other things. Perhaps he wants you to add to that.
So what are some of the uses of NLP? Is that
Hmm.
the question? Okay.
Some examples of NLP used today.
Yeah. So I did talk about a little I think machine translation is something that I do see being heavily involved on NLP, heavily dependent on NLP. Machine translation is one area. And I've come across this because in my current team, we have spent a lot of time making sure that those translations are good enough. So machine translation, definitely. There's also a different thing called transliteration. I'm not sure if you all are familiar with that. So it's not really translation, but just taking, for example, if I, so translation, as we all know, is more of the equivalent sentence in Hindi or other languages. But transliteration is like the same sentence, but in Hindi. So if I say, who is Obama? I would write that in Hindi as who is Obama. You know, when I read it out loud, it would sound the same. So that is transliteration, and that also uses NLP. And that has a good amount of use case, at least in Alexa, and I'm sure at Google as well. So transliteration is also one use case that I can think of, which I did not talk about during my presentation. Other things are like topic summarization. Sorry, not topic summarization. I think it's something like paragraph summarization or something like that, or just summarization, which is you take 7-page research papers and then you summarize its summary in one paragraph. So that is also being done using NLP. So with NLP, you can do that. Then the other use case of NLP is, how Amazon has its own website where you can shop for T-shirt or electronics or whatever. So there is a model that when you provide certain text to it, for example, if you say like the description of a product, like this light is really good, that description would go into electronics category. So topic categorization, I think, is where you assign a text to a topic. So that has some use case. It also finds its use case in identifying the reviews of a particular product. Like, for example, you have multiple products on your website and you write like people put reviews about your product. You want to make sure that you can focus on different products and their reviews. So you would be classifying each review to a particular product. You know, you'll be assigning them to different products. That's also something that NLP can help with. So these are some of the additional ones, I think, and there were others that I talked about already.
Amazing. When you especially talked about getting a summary of several research articles,
Right.
I was thinking how much easier research preparation has become.
Exactly.
I may sound like an old man, but gone are the days when I did my master's at UMass Amherst. The library was 5 minutes walk from my office. And I recall carrying all those journals, bound journals, heavy, to photocopy in the office because I could save like $10 to $20. And
Right.
as a student, remember, $10 or $20.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yep.
Thank you very much. There's one more question here. Actually, there are a couple of more questions. How did you, Sai Nandan has asked, how did you prepare for your master's? I think the emphasis is on you.
Sorry, the emphasis is on?
Yes, on how you did. How you.
Okay, yeah.
I'm assuming.
I think, yeah. So how did I prepare for my master's? I think yeah, I mean, it can take a whole lot of time, but like I mainly focused on GRE. You know, I knew that if I score high on GRE, then I stand a good chance of securing admission as well as full scholarship. So I used Magoosh. There's a platform called Magoosh where you can subscribe for a certain period of time and you can learn, you can prepare for GRE. So I used that platform and I really put a lot of effort into it, and I scored a good score, a decent score of 321. And with that score, and then I prepared all my essays and things like that. So you really have to come up with good essays that can show the admission committee that your reason for doing masters is justified, and you have a you are really interested in some of the things that the university is doing already. So do a research on universities, see the area that you are interested in. Are they also working on those research? If there is a match of interest, and then write your essays according to a university. So try and match some of your work to the industry, to the research that is happening at the university, and then of course score high on GRE, and then you'll be able to like create the application yourself. It's not that big of a problem. I think you just have to spend some time understanding the process, and then I was able to then get full scholarships in two universities, University of Toledo, Ohio, and there is Purdue University, Indiana. So with full scholarship, it was really easy for me to make a decision, because I was really, I would not have gone to the US if they had not offered me full scholarship. I was totally dependent on a scholarship. So once I was offered that, I was really happy, and I could easily make that decision. I don't have to take education loan or anything like that, which comes with interest anyway. So I was not really in favor of that. Yeah, like I think carefully assessing which universities you want to apply to based on your area of interest and the research that is already going on in those universities, and then making sure that you score really high on GRE. And if you have work experience, then you can also present a very good case to the admission committee that your profile is really wholesome, and they would most likely offer you a place. And once I was offered admission, then I think I just reached out to different professors from the department, and I personally wrote to them that, hey, I'm interested in your research. I have done this and this, and I can contribute here and there. So that's how I was able to sort of make my presence notable to them. So yeah, I think these are some of the tips that I would say. Yeah.
That's good. What was the website that you mentioned? Can I trouble you to type it?
Oh, sure. It's Magoosh, Magoosh.
Magoosh. Okay. Because when you said that, my ears perked up. Yes, only yesterday, one of my juniors, of course, junior who was born after I graduated, asked me this question, sir, can I get some help on the GRE? So he's going to be happy about it.
Sure.
While you do here, another question from an anonymous attendee. Is it required to have a degree in computer science to get a job in AI or ML? Though I have sufficient knowledge or skill, which is needed to get a job or perform your duties well. So he says he has the skills, but not a degree in computer science. Can he still get a job in AI or ML?
Yeah, I think totally he can totally get a job if he has the skill, and if he can showcase that he has the skill to be able to do those tasks. So he has to show certain projects to recruiters. He has to share those GitHub link with them so that they can also see that this person is really capable. If you just know that you are capable, but you cannot show it to others, that won't work for you in job market. You have to show them, you have to market yourself. So make sure that you work on some side projects, you share those on GitHub, and then you put that link on your resume. Again, connect on LinkedIn, talk about your projects, talk about those skills, write a blog article, say that, hey, this is what I did in past summer. And I don't know how Indian job market is, but the job market in the US is pretty open. They're not really looking for computer science graduates. I would say that it would actually work in your favor, because nowadays what every company is really looking for is what different opinion can you bring into the team. So if you're not from computer science, then actually it works in your favor, because you now have a different way of thinking, right? So you can approach a problem in a different manner, and data science really requires that. Machine learning really requires that new way of thinking. If everyone on the team is thinking in the same way, then you won't be able to see those patterns. So maybe your presence in the team is really going to help the team. So it can work in your favor. I'm not sure how open the companies are in India right now, but in the US, it's really open. I mean, they can hire anybody if they have the skills.
Okay. One last question. I think it's a very important question. Coding is the buzzword among students, right? They are always thinking CS, IT, coding, and I get a job. Now the question I have for you is, how do we drive these youngsters towards futuristic concepts or current ideas, current topics such as AI? Give them the idea that coding is not the be all and end all. Because since I came back to India, which was first time was in last century, I have been telling students, programmer to computer science is like a mechanic to mechanical engineering, but that hasn't worked.
Right. Yeah, that's a very good question. And I think I sort of relate to that because as an IT graduate, I wasn't really very good with coding. I wasn't very good coder. So I was also not someone who was interested in those coding roles. So I can totally relate to this question. And I think the way to think about this is there are not just coding roles in these big companies. There are these roles that I'm a part of right now, language data researcher, where you can learn about these technologies. Um, there'll be a little bit of coding involved, of course, because coding lets you do certain tasks in a very easy way. So it's good to have those skills. But overall, I mean, there are so many opportunities like where you don't really have to code every day. Coding may be required when you need to do some cleaning of data or do some sort of analysis and you have to present it to the client. That's when you need coding skills. But normally it's not part of day to day. Um, again, coming back to these roles, like knowledge engineer, language data researcher, language engineer, which I talked about, those are not highly coding involved roles. And then there are roles like technical program manager. So you could be a program manager of a machine learning team where you would have the theoretical skills, but you don't have to code. You will be partnering with engineering teams, but you don't have to write the code. The code will be written by engineering team. You would have to communicate the requirements to them. So maybe the entry point is a little difficult. You have to know coding to enter, but then once you enter, then a whole world of opportunities opens for you. So I would say hang in there, keep coding. Like don't just do coding without any end goal. Do coding, for example, solve interesting problems with coding. So do some NLP machine learning model building with coding. That would keep you interested. So if you just write certain code like inversing a binary tree, that may bore you. So do something else, like write a code to build a machine learning classifier and follow along some of the YouTube tutorials. They sort of walk you through step by step. So that will give you a bit of a support and you will really enjoy the end result of it. You will have built some model that can now classify an email as a spam or not. So I would say just keep practicing a little, hang in there, follow some tutorials, some courses where you can get that support, and then there are many roles. Like at the end of the day, there'll be many roles where you can actually where you won't be required to do coding, and you'll be able to work with these futuristic technologies. I don't know if I answered that question, but that was my take on it. Yeah.
That adds to the discussion because that's very important. It's very important, especially for these kids who are in school, to hear somebody who is actually there and is not too old compared to them. For them, you are a little bit old. At 18,
Yeah.
25 years old,
Sorry?
At 18, 25 is old. At 50, 25 is a baby.
Right.
Thank you very much for those questions. I think we will close here, although we have overrun by 5 minutes. It was really worth it. I will invite Abdul Razak Bhai to share his thoughts. Razak Bhai is the head of projects in AMP. So
Okay.
let's listen to him. Razak Bhai.
Yeah, thank you, Khalil bhai. Thank you, Aatif Belal, for Wonderful session. I mean,
Thank
you took a very interesting topic, but a technical topic to a layman's language. The first 30 minutes, I was confused being a non-technical guy that what
Sure.
the terminology is being used over here, what is going on. But when I clubbed the entire 1 hour session that you spoke about, it cleared my mind about anything and everything on AI and NLP. So that is the good part of it. Like, and whenever you talk about this topic, a professor, when he talks in a different language. But you, it
Right.
was like a horse's mouth. Exactly a person who's working over it. Like, even I had some 5-7 question which I said with Khalil Bhai that let's put this into a Q&A. But fortunately, you cleared all the 7 of them in your session itself. Like, so what
I'm glad
Khalil
that,
sir,
yeah.
yeah, that is what is there. So Aatif, I thank you on behalf of AMP Central team that you took out your time and gave a wonderful session to us, especially when it's a midnight time in your time zone. Although we
Yeah,
are
I
sitting
think,
at the,
yeah, night works for me. I cannot wake up early in the morning, but night is fine. Yeah.
okay, great. For us also in India, today Sunday morning, it was a time spending in your bed or it was a time well investment for your future. I think
Right.
all those people who came out today have got real taste of what this is all about, right?
Yep.
Anything and everything that's a dream for an Indian engineer today. Atif, you have actually achieved that. So people look forward for it. Like people want to go for masters in US, you have done that. People want to work in Google, you have done that. People want to go to Amazon, you have done that. So that's how it was there. So it was very important for people to look at. Today we were on Zoom, we were live on Facebook. We will again upload this entire session on a YouTube channel, which can be shared with more than 50,000 students across India. So a lot of people will get benefit out of this. And this is just a start of a journey. Atif will AMP on behalf of AMP will connect you back again for more such session or more guidance to students who are specifically into certain topic which you are an expert at. So thank you once again, Atif, for your valuable time.